Praise the Lord, everyone. It's an honor to be a part of this Zoom call and give you some awareness. Also, according to Bible, in Jeremiah 30, it says God is our healer. God is Jehovah Rapha. He's our ultimate healer, but we are just His vessels working here and fulfilling God's promise through us, what He has prepared us to be. And I would like to just give you a brief about COVID-19. I'm sure all of you all know about it more than me, but I would just like you all to just brief you all, and then I would hand over to Dr. Gupta and Dr. Meenan next. But here is, can I screen share, Pastor?
Yes, Dr. Nancy, you can. You can, yes.
So I'm sure all of you all are well aware of the symptoms, but I don't know if you all know all the symptoms. So the general symptoms are cough, sore throat, difficulty in breathing, fever, chills. But there are also few people who would be experiencing diarrhea and some intestinal symptoms like vomiting, and few people have muscular pains, generalized weakness. So I am working in the ward. So most of the patients, they don't have fever. They just come with sore throat, or they just come for a regular checkup because one of their neighbor or one of their loved ones is positive. Most of them are asymptomatic, but sometimes it's just diarrhea and cough, or cough is like not a common symptom. Most of the people might be seeing the ads or might be hearing on the call, but like there's a forwarded message which goes on before we call someone with the government. But cough is not the regular symptom. What I've seen in these patients who I treat, who I check every day. So I would want you all to be well aware of it. And so most of these patients, how the disease spreads is, in the beginning, yes, when it's contact spread, but most of the patients who are old, who have diabetes, hypertension, or comorbidities, we call them comorbidities. So any underlying disease, they are more prone to these symptoms, this COVID. So most of them are at home, and they just contract the disease, and most of them are shocked after coming. Like, they take a lot of precaution, and still yet they get the disease. So the thing is, if any one of y'all have a comorbidity or underlying disease, as an extra layer of protection, you need to be taking, and you need to be aware of all of these symptoms. So usually I've also treated people over the call, about more than 30 patients. So we first, when patients come to us, we try to manage them at home, because at hospital there are a lot of patients, and there's always a risk for an overpowering of any other disease or anything else. So we try to restrict these patients at home, and we try to give them medicines home, like oral medicine first. So first we give them usually a regular multivitamins. I'm sure most of y'all must be taking multivitamins, the vitamin C, the zinc COVID, and I'm sure all of y'all are aware of it. But we also give them azithromycin and dexamethasone. So these medicines are the first line of treatment. These are the antibiotics, which can are more susceptible to for the respiratory infections. So these are first line of drugs, and then we also give Fluvies, an antiviral drug that is later on in the stage. I personally don't recommend this. Like, that's the later. Like, if these two medicines don't work, then I would suggest Fluvies next. Why? Because everything has pros and cons, and these damage the liver, the antiviral drugs. And also, there are few patients who have a lot of respiratory distress, like after they might be experiencing shortness of breath or anything. That's when we give them corticosteroids. But that's also with the precaution, because maybe all of y'all might have heard about the black fungus, that is mucormycosis. So that's one of the, because okay, so because the steroids are given, the blood sugars go up, and because of the blood sugars gone up, there's always a risk of contracting infection. And since this is a fungal infection, mucormycosis or black fungus, it's easily affecting patients who are post-COVID recovering. And a bunch of stuff also in COVID patients. Besides these external symptoms, if I check their blood reports, most of them have their D-dimer level high. So D-dimer is nothing but thickness of the blood. The blood tends to become thick. So we give them anticoagulants too. So I've seen few cases who recovered and they come back again with stroke, that is paralysis. And that happens why? Because of clotting, blood clotting. The clot will go and lodge somewhere in the brain, and they get a stroke. So these, you have to be very watchful. This is a tricky disease. Sometimes you think, okay, you're all healed, you got a negative report, and you can be laid back about it. But I suggest my patients who I treat home treatment for 2 months, every 15 days, I suggest them to take a D-dimer test and get back to me. So that's about the symptoms and the treatment. And as you all know, these are the 3 golden rules. Put a face mask, wash your hands, and maintain social distance. Part of the prevention. There's also vaccines giving around, and I'm sure all of y'all must be having doubts regarding the vaccines, what to take, Covishield, Covaxin, this or that. So, and in that aspect, I would like to hand it over to Gupta ma'am, and I think Prashant sir would be introducing Gupta ma'am. Over to you, Prashant sir.
So, I've known Dr. Shalini for a while now, and like I said, almost about 13, 14 years, and it's just great to have her on the phone call. And one of the things about Shalini's profession is that she and the dentist combined with the anesthesiologist are at like maximum risk to contract the disease, because whenever they examine, the patients open their mouth. So, in a way, we're thankful for God's protection over our life for the, entire duration of this pandemic. So I just wanted to give a brief introduction. She's done her MS ENT after her MBBS. She completed her senior residency in the ENT department at Safdarjung Hospital. And now she's working as a consultant in a corporate hospital in Dehradun. So it's great to have Shalini with us. And over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Doctor. Dr. Nancy, can you please do the slide share of my presentation?
Dr. Shalini, you can actually share screen from yours.
Yeah, and Dr. Shalini, your video is also not visible.
Okay, I'll just... I'm sorry for this little disturbance. Okay, so today I'm going to tackle something, that is a common discussion everywhere. In general population, we are not clear about what is Covaxin, what is Covishield, and we are talking about them at least 5 times a day, right? So far, Indian government started its vaccination rollout program on 16th January 2021. But so far, as on 6th June, only 3.3% of the population is vaccinated. That is too low. And this is a lesson for us to understand that in the second wave, we lost lots of lives because we willfully didn't get them vaccinated. So it is a lesson for us that as soon as possible, we should get ourselves vaccinated as soon as a number comes. Now, about vaccines, all over the world, there are lots of vaccine trials going on, which are in different stages, like in preclinical stage, we have 184 vaccines. After passing through the phase 1, 2, and 3 trials, 13 are in use currently worldwide. And finally, only 4 of them are in the phase 4. Now, what is a vaccine? A vaccine is a substance that stimulates your immune system to produce antibodies exactly like it would if you were to face the infection directly. So here what happens is you get the immunity without actually getting the infection and its consequences. Vaccines the COVID vaccines are based on basically 2 types of mechanisms here, mRNA and viral vector borne. So I should get into little detail of these 2 types of technologies that are in play. Dr. Prashant, little bit description about.
Oh, definitely. Please go.
So mRNA, what is mRNA? mRNA is basically a genetically engineered instruction that is submitted to your body in the form of vaccine. Your cells recognize and read those instructions, and what happens is they simulate your body to produce the spike protein, S protein, on its own cells, which are identified by your immune system and produce antibodies in response to that. So when body actually encounters the COVID virus later on, at some point, the antibodies are already there. So this can be simulated to all our kids. I'm sure we send them to Taekwondo classes. The Taekwondo master instructs them, gives them the lessons, and just asks them to be well versed with all the Taekwondo steps to save themselves from any assault later on. They're well versed with that, prepared for that. And God forbid, if some assault like that happens, they're well prepared and can protect themselves. Something similar. Then viral vector borne is basically a mechanism where we are using a part or some parts of the virus, the COVID virus, which is attenuated, weakened. We use a vector, which is a carrier. Like in case of Covishield, it is from chimpanzee adenovirus. And in Sputnik, it is a double vector virus from double human cold virus that is transmitted to the humans in the form of vaccine. And then again, the same mechanism. It identifies, forms spike proteins, immune response is developed, and antibodies form. So far, WHO has approved these vaccines to be used. AstraZeneca, Oxford University, it has a stellar reputation. And in India, it is produced by the name of Covishield. Then Johnson & Johnson, Janssen, primarily in US, Pfizer and Moderna. Now you can recognize out of these, Pfizer and Moderna are mRNA based. AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson are based on viral vector borne technique, as I told you. Sinovac and Sinopharm. COVID vaccines in India, primarily there are 4. I'm sure we all have heard about Covishield, Covaxin, Sputnik also, and Corbevax is still in development. So Corbevax is developed by Hyderabad-based Biological E Limited. It has shown great promise with phase 1 and 2 trials. And when it comes to the market, it is estimated to be the cheapest in the market once it is available. Now, Sputnik is developed by Gamaleya Institute, Moscow, Russia. According to the study in Lancet, it has shown efficacy of 91.6%, the highest so far. And in India, it is produced by Dr. Reddy's lab. In fact, the pharma head of Dr. Reddy's lab himself got injected with Sputnik to present his case. Now, one question that I present to you all is, which vaccine, according to you, is passport friendly for Indian travelers? Because I guess few of us have got Covishield, few of us have got Covaxin. Do we have idea at present? So at present, Covishield is more passport friendly because it features in the list of WHO approved vaccines. Covaxin so far has not been approved by WHO. But does it lag behind Covishield? We are to see. Okay, so this is a general outline of the 3 vaccines. Sputnik is still not available in the market, but it is going to show a great promise once it is available. And if you see the efficacy, Sputnik scores the highest amongst the 3, and then developed by by now, like out of these 3, only Covaxin is indigenous to India. The rest 2 have been developed outside India, but produced by some companies in India. Now I'll go through some key points where Covishield and Covaxin differ, so that once you get the choice to get. So far, government has not allowed you to choose the vaccine that you want to get yourself vaccinated with, but in coming times it will be a possibility that you get to choose. That time maybe this presentation might help you a little bit. So Covishield, as I discussed earlier, it contains weakened strain of cold virus of chimpanzees. Covaxin contains the SARS-CoV inactivated virus itself. So if it confers the natural immunity is conferred better by Covaxin, closer to your natural immunity, because it uses the whole of the inactivated virus with its 29 proteins intact. So the immune response that is produced in response to this vaccine is quite similar to our natural immunity. There it scores a bit higher than Covishield. And that is why I think the efficacy is slightly higher. Now, anaphylaxis reactions have been shown to be with Covishield, but not with Covaxin so far, because Covishield has a component called as polysorbate 80, which is known to cause anaphylaxis. Now, with storage, both are pretty fine to store and transport. Covishield is developed by AstraZeneca, and it is manufactured by Serum Institute of India, Pune. And Covaxin has been developed by Hyderabad-based Bharat Biotechnology along with ICMR and National Institute of Virology. Mechanism of action we have already discussed here, like what is the role of these vaccines. They basically they send antigens into your body against which antibodies are formed. And this antigen-antibody response complexes are going to help you when the actual attack occurs. Booster doses. Now, this is a very important part. We all are questioning right now that because all of us who have taken vaccination in January, February, March, we don't know till when we are immune. So basically by studies, we have known that from 6 months to 11 months, it can be anything. See, we have to understand one thing. This pandemic is only 1 year old. It takes decades and decades to study a new infection or a disease. There is no clear-cut data, there is no clear-cut evidence or study. But so far in such short time, people have done wonders, researchers, doctors, and scientists together to put across this much information. So far what we have, 6 months to 11 months is the time that this vaccination can confer immunity to. And then I think we will require the booster doses. Because as Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla has said that we will need vaccination within 12 of full vaccination. That means in India, we are going real slow because the people who were vaccinated in January to March will soon require a booster dose. And just 3.3% population is vaccinated. So you can imagine the disproportion. By the time the whole population is vaccinated, we will require the booster doses. This will in fact impede the development of herd immunity, as you can guess. Now, there has been a development here. Dr. T. Jacob John, virologist, has taken 3rd dose of Covaxin on himself to study immune responses as per how it will be after taking booster dose. And he got his subsequent immune complexes serum tests done. And it gave him severely high responses, which made him purport that maybe you have to give umbrella cover to cover all the COVID-19 virus and its variants. The highest the immune complexes and its formation in your body, the better your protection will be. So this also conveys that we would require booster doses. Trials. Covishield done all trials. They presented it in the bridging study in India, and that is why this vaccine was approved in India. Covaxin phase 3 had the highest number of participants, 45,800, largest clinical trial done in India so far, and its interim results were declared on 3rd March 2021. So safe with both Shield and Covax. That is not an issue anymore. Dosage regime is two doses 4-12 week apart and 2 doses 4 weeks apart for Covaxin. And as we have studied earlier, efficacy is 70% by Lancet for Covishield and for 81% for Covaxin. That places Covaxin little higher than Covishield on efficacy part. Protection against mutants, as I say, variants of UK, it has been shown to, but South Africa and Brazil, the data is not still available. Now a quick look at the side effects. So as we can see from this chart, we can very well see that Covaxin has much lesser side effects compared to Covishield. I'm sure this chart is particularly little surprising to few people because we have always been in favor of Covishield because it was introduced earlier, but efficacy-wise Covaxin scores a bit higher. Contraindications, we all know if there is history of previous anaphylactic reactions, we should avoid giving. And then pregnancy lactation, earlier it was contraindicated, but now it's been allowed. Nurse, bleeding disorders, take, and this can be done on case basis, like case to case. This is not a general rule. Now again, if I have to conclude, the stellar reputation of Oxford University places Covishield in a frame where we believe in it like 100%. But I have to say, after this research that I did, that Covaxin is at par, if not above, Covishield. This is indigenous product of India, made in India, manufactured in India, such a short time frame, and we should be really proud of this fact. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shalini. That was exhaustive. And at this point, I think we'll take questions, I think after Dr. Minal gets done. But if there is anything that you need for clarification for technical jargon, yes, we definitely have a look at that. Basically, you know, Dr. Shalini highlighted the spike protein. All the vaccines basically familiarize our immune system with the spike protein. So spike protein in this case, like for example, if we are looking at you, if I see Cleo, there are certain facial features of his. Moment I see him even far away, I'll know it's Pastor Cleo and I'll give him a wave. So the same way, the spike protein is the way by which it's the lens through which the immune system identifies that as the COVID virus and fight. So all of them, these vaccines have different ways of familiarizing our immune system, if that's the word, with the spike protein of the COVID virus so that it can fight against. So just wanted to quickly welcome Dr. Minal. It's been a delight to have her along with us. I just going through my messages. So I met Minal almost about 14 years ago, and she's had a fantastic run when it comes to her relationship with the Lord, and she's gone through some extreme trials, and she's, you know, I think Pastor Cleo would probably want to have her speak about her testimony, not just her, even Dr. Shalini as well. You know, sometimes this, just thank God for these wonderful sisters of ours from the North, and, you know, who such an encouragement and a blessing to us. So actually, Dr. Minal is now based in Ghana. She moved there with her husband, and she did her MD in community medicine after MBBS in UP. And after finishing with that, and now she's actually serving people on a community basis in Ghana through different initiatives. So I think she'll give a little bit of an introduction of more about herself. So I mean, there's lots of stuff like infection prevention control in charge for her hospital. She's an advocate, researcher, and trainer in terms of antimicrobial stewardship, which means, you know, we surgeons are all under her jurisdiction. We can't use any antibiotic whenever we like. We're supposed to take permission from her and then give the antibiotics that we need to. And she's also helped out in various district and sub-district hospitals in Rajasthan, again under the Dakshata initiative. So she's a woman who's, you know, really qualified to talk about a lot to do with COVID, and it's just a delight to have Dr. Minal. So over to you, Minal. Thank you so much for being a part. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Charles. It's too much of saying. I hope I come to your expectations, but
you'll exceed.
I have been seeing this pandemic since the time it came in Ghana. We've been actively involved in a district hospital which became the national COVID center. So I came to know that people have certain questions to ask, and I thought it's appropriate right now to deal with some of them so that you have the clear picture. But I would also be very happy to answer the questions hereafter so that whatever be the doubts in your mind, we can just clear them off. So I would just begin quickly. We're going to talk about a few things. Please don't mind this number 3 because I was given that as a question as number 3. I'm just coming.
No issues. I mean,
all right.
Three of us had jotted up a couple of questions in serial number, and I thought it was so kind of him to do so. So
right.
That's okay. The content is important.
Yeah. And as he jotted out these questions, I felt it was needed to be answered in the right way. You know, there are certain times we are not able to convey the message clearly to all the public. So here I am just to answer these questions and then thereafter some more. So the first thing that was asked was, are there different variants of COVID-19? The simple answer is yes. The second thing, how dangerous they are. See, when we talk about anything being dangerous, especially in terms of infection, we mean how fast it can get to the other person. If I have got infected, how fast will I transmit it to the person next to me? And how fast will that person transmit to the person next to him? And how many people will I infect? So that's called infectivity. And the second thing is severity of the disease. So severity would actually mean that, let's say I have met 100 people and 90 of them have become infected because I was infected. Now, out of these 90, how many would die? So what is the case death rate? What is the death rate within all these 90 people? And how many will be severely ill or going to be hospitalized or getting into the ventilator? So those are the different parameters of severity, and that will determine how dangerous. So we already know that COVID has been dangerous both in terms of infectivity as well as in terms of how severe or how serious the disease can be. There were various studies, but I would, now that we are talking about variants, I will just show you the next slide. How do we go to the next slide? Okay, yeah, so I'll show you this next slide. And these are the new variants which have come into the picture. WHO did not want to call them China virus, India variant, England variant. So they decided to give the variant some name. So it depends on which variant came first. So England had the first case of a variant, so they called it Alpha. And then we see the main virus, that was this one. So it was transmissible, that means it is infecting from one person to the other. And it invaded the immune system, but the vaccine was working on it. Similarly, the England variant, or sorry to say that way, but the Alpha variant was also spreading very fast, faster 3 times at least faster than the original variant. But the good thing is vaccine is effective. The Beta variant was found in South Africa immediately later. And then came the Gamma variant, which was in Brazil. The Epsilon and Iota variants were actually in US. And then the Delta variant is the one which is now running in India. And this variant is said to be transmitting very fast. I mean, if you do not do those, as Dr. Prashant says, the 3 magical things and the triad and golden triangle, if you do not follow that, this one will really be spreading very fast, as we have already seen. But the good news for all of this is that they are all effectively managed by the vaccinations that we currently have. Do these vaccines inject the specific antibodies, was asked. So let me say no. There is no vaccine which will give you antibodies. Now, here I need to explain you what is an antibody before we go further. Please, if you have any doubts, just jot it down and we will discuss again. An antibody is what my body will make against something which is a foreigner. So if a bacteria enters inside, my body will make something called as antibody specific for that bacteria to kill it. If a virus comes inside, my body will make a specific antibody, which will be very specific to that virus only, to attack that virus and kill it. So vaccines bring antibodies? No. So what do vaccines do? Vaccines don't bring antibodies, but they give you something which will trigger you to make antibodies. So vaccines basically put a substance inside of you, as Dr. Shalini was explaining, that some are inactivated, means killed virus. It's just simple that you have taken the virus and killed it and put it inside of me. And my body thinks, oh, this is a virus. It doesn't know it's killed. So it will start making some kind of an antibody. So vaccines don't inject antibodies, but vaccines trigger my body to make antibodies. Yes, all vaccines against all the variants are effective. As we have just seen, all vaccines against all the variants are effective. Somebody asked like this, the difference between non-specific antibodies in our immune system versus specific antibodies. Again, I highlighted injected to just emphasize the same point, that nobody is injecting an antibody inside of me. Rather, vaccine is going to make an antibody from my body. It is going to make me, it is going to trigger me to make an antibody for myself. Okay, it's a very good question. Can this affect our prevailing immune system? Yes, every vaccine has a purpose of improving your immune system to that particular disease. So if you give your child a measles vaccine, it will improve the immune system so that when the measles virus comes in, the body will kill it, as Dr. Shalini was just explaining. Okay, there is no antibody being injected, as I already said, but the vaccines give stimulants to produce antibodies within the body. Okay, unvaccinated persons, when take the virus, what really happens is, as I was explaining again, he suffers the disease because coronavirus, like most other viruses, know how to befool the non-specific immune system. You know, there is not just non-specific antibodies, but non-specific cells which need to catch up some viruses and kill them. But viruses are very smart. They will go into the camp of the body's immune system and bombard it. So they are like the terrorists which will enter the camp and bombard it. So viruses actually enter into the immune cells and they just burst off. So that is not gonna help us. So non-specific immune cells or non-specific immune system is not going to help us. So what does a vaccine do? Dr. Shalini very well explained. I'm just putting in other words. They are actually dummies. So it's like a dead virus or a piece of a virus or a genetic material which can make something which looks like a piece of a virus inside our body. When it is given to us inside our body thinks that it is something, it's like an attack, but it is not an attack, it is a training going on. So as soon as the body thinks it's an attack, it starts making its own antibodies to destroy this dummy. Now, when this dummy is destroyed, the purpose of the immune system is solved. So it thinks, wow, we have got an achievement. And in the immune system, there's something called as memory cells. So it stores in its memory, well, next time if this virus comes or this bacteria comes, we have this kind of an army ready with us and we are going to bombard it. So next time when the real virus comes in, this army, this combat army is already prepared, trained, and as soon as it sees the virus, it just bombards it and destroys the virus there itself. So the disease does not happen. In COVID cases, technically speaking, the disease may be mild. Okay, this is something which general public has been asking me a lot, and this is exactly my topic because it needs to be really dealt with and explained. People ask me, what is herd immunity? Number one, and will it lead to the destruction of the virus completely? So let me say it clear and loud, no. Herd immunity cannot destroy anything. It cannot destroy the virus. It cannot destroy the bacteria. What it will do, I will explain it to you. It is important, but it cannot kill. It will not kill the virus, but it will do something. It will break the chain of transmissibility. But before that, there are two concepts, especially with COVID. One is natural herd immunity and one is vaccine-induced herd immunity. I will come to it in a minute. I want you to see this. I wish I can control it. Okay. Before it changes, actually, this one is a GIF, and I really do not know if GIF can be controlled. Okay. So GIF image, you need to see the greens, and the green are the healthy people who have not been vaccinated. The yellows are the healthy people who have been vaccinated. I'll go back and forth and see how it goes. All right. So all these green people have not been vaccinated. One person got COVID and he spread to all the people whom he met, and they had not taken the vaccine. Now this so again, this one person has got infected and he spread COVID to all the green people who have not got the vaccine. Now, as these people are here who met other people who were vaccinated, they did not spread it to the person who is vaccinated, but they are spreading it to each other and they're spreading to all the unvaccinated population. What do I mean to say? If a virus or a bacteria or any disease-causing agent will infect one, it will spread to all susceptible. By susceptible, I mean those who are at risk, those who do not have their antibodies ready. It will go from one person and it will go to all those who have not been vaccinated. So the vaccinated ones are safe, but the unvaccinated ones have been spread. And this is exactly how a pandemic happens. Now, I want you to see another GIF. This is, let's say, another country, and there they have vaccinated most of the people except just a few. So when this non-vaccinated susceptible person got COVID and other people came into his contact, they did not get it. And because they did not get it, look, they are not spreading it. And now let's see, this person is coming in contact with this, and this one is coming in contact with this. And then this one, please follow my arrows. And then this one is coming in contact with the green one. And the green one has not been vaccinated, but he still does not get the disease because between the red infected person and the green susceptible person, non-immunized person, there are so many immunized people in between. So the disease cannot travel. It could not travel to reach this person. It could not travel all the way to reach this person. On the other hand, here, from this red person, the disease could easily go to the other green, the other green, the other green, and it could spread to almost everybody around, making them fall sick to COVID. Having said this, there are two types of herd immunity. One is, I got infected, I was in the hospital, I got discharged, I have some antibodies. Am I immune so that, now am I immune? I have not taken the vaccine. So can I say I'm immune so that another person, when he gets COVID, I will not get it? So the answer is no. We in our clinical practices have seen people getting infected with COVID again and again and again. So if I get infected, whether I go to hospital, don't go to hospital, whether it was mild or severe, I may still again get the disease. And again, I can get a severe disease or a mild disease, not knowing about my immune system. So can I say that I have been protected so next person will not get it? No. If I have got the infection of COVID last year, and I did not take the vaccine till now, and in this pandemic, if I get it again, I will still spread it to my family and my loved ones. My loved ones will be going out to meet their friends and their office mates, and they will spread it there. And they will go to their families and spread it there. So the cycle will continue. So I have rather infected most of the people this way, thinking that natural herd immunity will save. So this is a fallacy. Natural herd immunity cannot protect you. Now coming to vaccine herd immunity. Yes, it's a fair guess to say if I take the vaccine, then I'm protected enough. So if I take the vaccine, the 2 shots of whichever vaccine is given to me, and then in the pandemic, I am moving around or I contract people who have COVID in my hospital. But because I have taken the vaccine, I would not be catching those virus and bringing to my family. Even if one of the family members has not been vaccinated, he will still not get the virus from me. So that is what herd immunity is. Herd immunity says if a majority of the population has been given the vaccine, chances are that a few who have not got the vaccine will still stay protected because they will not come across the disease through a very common channel. Another interesting question that came to me was, in my medical opinion, how much more time will the virus keep surfacing in different variants? Please, I know it's a little technical for common people. Please do not hesitate in the question answers round to ask. I would love to answer it again and again till the time you really get it. Okay. So how long will this virus keep on changing its face, keep on getting new variants? Forever. Forever. And I again say forever. As long as it will be allowed by us to spread from one person to the other, it will keep on changing its face. Some of you must be science students, and you know what is mutation. Mutation is when a cell is trying to multiply. From 1, it wants to become 2, or 2 to 4. There are times that the DNA or the RNA of that cell gets a little change. It doesn't always copy the right way. You know, the small children, when they're copying ABCD or they're copying a passage from another friend, they may miss some spelling or they miss something. Similarly, when the cells are rapidly multiplying, they may miss something or they may add something extra. So they would not be 100% similar to what their original cell was. This is simply called mutation. Now, when the virus is multiplying so fast, what happens is it tends to get some mutations inside, errors inside. It was supposed to be like the original virus, but suddenly one of the gene got disturbed, or it did not get picked up, or an extra gene got picked up. So it became a little deformed virus or a little different looking virus. And this is called a genetic shift. Now, what really happens here is, if I get infected, the virus is multiplying inside of me. And it's making millions of copies. Now, this millions of copy, one might be a mutation copy. And if this one mutation copy again multiplies and goes to another person, let's say goes to another person who is next to me and infects that person and starts multiplying new copies, which does not look like my original virus copy, but a new virus copy. And then it will go around and it will spread to all the people. And that is called as a new variant. So they will say, oh, a new Delta variant has come to India. A new Alpha variant has come to England. So the virus has changed its shape. So that is exactly what it is. Can you contain it? Yes, you can. So the only thing you can do is stop the virus where it is. The good thing is the virus does not have wings. So it cannot fly from me to a far off person. And that's the beauty of lockdown. So how would you really want to stop the spread? The first important thing I would encourage all of you is get vaccinated. Vaccines are safe and vaccines are a long-term solution. Whether you will require a booster or not require a booster or how it would be, but it works. So please do get vaccinated. The second thing is avoid contacts. You know, wherever the lockdowns were taken seriously, especially China, Wuhan, They did not infect anybody outside of Wuhan. And how did they do it? They just locked down the people. They shut down. And being dictators, they could do so. But here we have to really educate people. Please educate your people around, your, Kamwalis, your other people who come in contact with you, what it means to avoid contact. So lockdown is a good example to see. When the lockdown happens, the cases in the hospital start slowly reducing. So people think that we have defeated the virus or we have scared the virus. It's not so. The only thing is the virus is still there, but it is not spreading so fast to the rest of the people. But if we go to rallies and stuff, what will happen? One person is infected. In the rally, he will meet another 10,000 people and he would infect them all. Another important thing is once you start going to offices, work from home is very good if that is possible. But as you start moving on, please maintain social distance, preferably 2 meters, 6 feet. If not possible, at least 1 meter. Another important thing I want to discuss is hand hygiene. And here I want to give you an important tip. I know you know everything about hand hygiene, but one important tip is that when you use hand creams and you use a sanitizer does not work very efficiently with hand creams. So personally, you should be avoiding hand creams, specifically if you're thinking to use sanitizers only, and if you cannot wash your hands with soap and water. Mask. I need to talk about something called as double mask and single mask. I'll come to that. Another important thing I'll re-emphasize is please do not use gloves. It cannot protect you. Only if you are a caretaker or a healthcare person, a nurse or a doctor, who is using the glove for one patient and discarding the glove again. Only then can you use it. And then I'll finally talk about some cough etiquettes. So hand hygiene, this is a mnemonic I made for my trainees. Usually people think that they can just wash hands anyhow, but not really so. First of all, you need to wash hands for 20 seconds. You can use alcohol rub when water is not available, soap is not available. But please remember that, if the hands are visibly dirty, the alcohol will not fully affect. That means the sanitizer will not fully work if the hands are still dirty. So if the hands are really dirty to look at, then please wash them with soap and water. Okay, there are 6 steps to hand washing, and you should wash the hands for at least 20 seconds. So the first one is you take the soap and the water and you start rubbing on the front. Okay, the mnemonic is FBI, fit and working. FBI, FIT, fit, N, working. So the first F is front of the hands. Then look at the back of your hands and rub the back of your hands. You can rub the back of your hands, both the hands. Then you look at the interdigits. So you rub the interdigits. Some people like to do it like this, and they rub the interdigits. So you rub in between the fingers, you make the soap go and rub it nicely. Then is FI, which means fist. So you make a fist like this, and you start rubbing the knuckles. Make a fist like this, and you start rubbing the knuckles. Then it is the thumb. So you turn your hand upside down, take it this way, and clean it like this. If you do it like this, usually it splashes on your face. So you take it like this and clean your thumb. So you've taken the side of it, the edge of the hand, and the thumb. FBI, FIT, the thumb has been done. N is for the nails. And please remember this, nails are the most dirtiest. And please keep your nails short if possible. So the nails. So you take the nails like this. The soap is already on your hands. The foam is already on your hands. So you rub it like this. Rub it like this. Rub it like this. FBI, fit and working. Working is the wrist. W for working, W for wrist. So this is the simple formula for hand wash. If you just keep on saying FBI, fit and working, and you're done. So this is the simple formula for hand washing. I hope you would remember it. I'll share the slides as well for you. Coming to mask. There's a lot of talk going on doubling the mask. You should double the mask if you're using 2 cloth masks, or if you're using 1 cloth mask, 1 surgical mask, or when you're using 2 surgical masks. But please do not double up if you're using N95. If you're using N95, please don't put surgical. I'll tell you exactly why. N95 has a close fit. So those of my colleagues who are sitting here, and especially Nancy and her friends will know that when they are seeing the patients in ER, they would know that when they're putting the N95, they are supposed to check, that the air is not leaking out. So they do a very close fit test. So N95 is meant to be closely on your face and give you a close, tight fit. When you put a surgical mask underneath, N95 does not give you a tight fit, and it loses the purpose of masking. Also, N95 has certain layers in between, which what it does is it gets statically charged. It has a negative and a positive charge in such a way that when the virus comes in, it gets stuck, not because of being small, not because it is very fine and small, no, but because it is getting electrically charged and it stays in there. So you do not want to miss that electrical charge, and so you do not want to cover it either with the cloth mask or with the surgical mask. I am leaving a link because last time when we were discussing, I came across some people who were asking about, can we reuse N95? The answer is yes. I'm leaving the AIMS link here. AIMS gave its SOP guidelines saying how to reuse the reuse the N95 mask. It's very interesting. I will leave it here for you. You can later on watch over it. Okay. Also, I am begging to say this because I'm an IPC person, and when I came to India, it was a nightmare to see my own parents doing it wrongly. So I'm really emphasizing on that ground. Please, if you touch your mask, if you want to readjust your mask, sanitize your hands before touching, and after touching, sanitize your hands. I'll give you a simple example. I saw my mom and I was shocked. She was putting the mask on, the N95, which she has already been using. So she wants to get a good fit. So she started touching it. And then she kept her hands, on the table. And then she started talking to my brother and she touched him. And then she rubbed her eyes. So all the virus which is on the outside of the N95 were on the fingertips. She touched the table, gave it to the table, touched my brother on the shoulder, gave it to my brother on the shoulder, touched her eyes. So please be watchful. N95 or any other mask, the purpose is the virus is on the outside. Please do not touch it. If you touch it, then please immediately use sanitizer. Another thing is, I have a habit of rubbing my eyes too much. So if you are rubbing your eyes like me, please, before you rub your eyes and after you rub your eyes, sanitize your hands. Use the sanitizer, rub it around, rub your eyes well. If you are satisfied, use the sanitizer and sanitize your hands again. And no digging, no nose digging. I don't want to say that, but yes, it is common with the children. You have to stop them do that. If you see them do that, let them wash their hands. Sanitizers will not work because once the fingers are soiled, I told you, the alcohol-based sanitizer will not be so effective. So hand washing is the best way. I was shocked again to see my father using gloves left, right, center, and he got COVID. By God's grace, he's recovered. But I'm here to share this very important thing, which I don't know how it was missed in India. Gloves gives you a pseudo security feeling. It gives you as if you are safe because your hands are safe. But now your hands are covered with the gloves, which are totally dirty. So though the gloves are dirty, you feel you are safe, and you can rub your eyes with that. You can touch your face with those gloves, and you'll be spreading the disease. Let's say you have picked up something which were with the gloved hands and the virus was on it. And now you are driving your car. So you're holding the steering with the gloved hand. And then you get down and your son comes in and he also wants to drive the same car without the gloves and he touches it. So he's again getting the contamination. Again, what you would do if you were not using gloves? If you were not using gloves, you will use the hand sanitizer. That's what I want. If you're using the gloves, you will either forget or you will disregard to use hand sanitizer. And it's very common. So the outer surface of the glove is fully contaminated and you're using it everywhere without using sanitizer. And finally, you get infected. That's exactly what happened with my daddy. And that's how he really got infected, because he was very serious with gloves, with the mask. But with the gloves being contaminated, he probably touched his face and he got the infection. Okay, I know we all teach our children about cough etiquettes. Cough like this, sneeze like this. That's totally wrong. So we are going to cut that off. We are not going to cough like this. We are not going to cough like this again. We are not going to sneeze like this. The new guideline says don't sneeze on your hands and do not use a handkerchief. If you're sneezing on your handkerchief and you keep it somewhere, you have contaminated that place with your cough or your sneeze. And so if you have the virus, you have contaminated. So instead, use tissue papers. And if tissue papers are not around, do not use handkerchief or hands, use the elbow. So if you're wearing a long sleeve, use your elbow to cough. If you're wearing a sleeveless, use your shoulder to cough. These are the best guidelines so that there's nobody who will touch my elbow to say, hello, how are you? Or there was nobody who will touch my shoulder to say, hello, how are you? So even if they're contaminated, they'll get washed. But hands, they should not be used for coughing and sneezing. I hope that helps you. Also, no handshakes. A new way we found out is touching the knuckles instead of using the hands, and touching the elbows. You know, when we meet somebody, we touch the elbows like that. And that's how we greet each other. So I've already said, this is the correct etiquette of coughing. And this one is the wrong etiquette of coughing and sneezing. Coming on to the next question, is there a need for those people who are not infected to take the vaccine? 100 and 1,000% yes. A vaccine is meant for prevention. So if I do not have the disease, the vaccine will save me, will protect me from getting the disease. So a vaccine is meant for protection, prevention of non-infected person. So I definitely need a vaccine so that in the future, I will not get the disease. I hope there is no ambiguity on it. Please, if you do, please do not hesitate. We will talk on it. How important is exercise and other physical activities to minimize the risk of infection? There is no role of exercise to save you from corona, but there is a definite role of exercise and physical fitness to save you from sedentary lifestyle, diabetes, obesity, hypertension, high cholesterol, and mental distress and depression. So I would say, please do not go to gyms or group walks. You have to avoid to meet people and go to common places, common public places. Please do so. But please exercise in your homes. If you have staircase, you can just do some aerobics on the first 2-3 steps. If you have a skipping rope, use the skipping rope. If you have a standing cycle, you can use that exercising cycle or a treadmill. Please keep exercising. It will help you to elevate your moods. It will make you happy. It will take off the depression and it will keep you fit. But it will not save you from corona. So please do not go out. When people take vaccination with a background of weak immune system, will it cause reaction? No. The answer is no. The common weak immune system conditions are HIV/AIDS, diabetes, immune disorders, and all these have been included in the early phases of research and study with the vaccines. So while the vaccines were still in the phasic stage, they have all used HIV people living with HIV/AIDS. They have used diabetics, they have used hypertensives, they've used hereditary immune deficiency people, to test, and they found that the vaccine is as safe as the normal population. So there is no hesitancy for them. But it is rather more important for them to get vaccinated because their immune system is already down. So if they do not get vaccinated and rather get the virus and get the infection, they would be having worse symptoms as compared to those who do not have these immune problems. Okay, my colleague Dr. Shalini has already covered it. I just want to say something because people come across to me, and because I'm in Ghana, the people are sometimes talking very primitive. They say mRNA vaccine is conspiracy of this and that, and they put on a whole lot of conspiracy theory. I just want to say they are safe. But interestingly, in India, we are not getting mRNA vaccines at all. So you're getting Covishield, which is by AstraZeneca, Oxford, and it is they've taken a different virus. They've taken a cough cold virus, and they have put, they have decorated the cough cold virus with the spikes of the coronavirus. So when they inject it to you, you get something like adenovirus or cough cold virus symptoms, but the spikes go in, and our body will make the antibodies against those spikes of the coronavirus. So they don't give you coronavirus at all. Talking of the Covaxin, they are killing the virus and they are just giving it to you. So a dead virus can do nothing. So it's as safe. Sputnik V and Sputnik Light, both of them are also using the same technology which Covishield is using. Why Sputnik V is better is because they give two vaccines, and the first one they use different spike, and the second one they use different spike on the same cough cold virus. So they take the cough cold virus, they take the cough cold virus and they put spikes on it. Don't ask me how, that's biotechnology. They put spikes on it and they just push it inside our body, and our body makes the antibody. And the second time when you come for the vaccination, they take another cough cold virus, they put different spikes on it of the same coronavirus, and they inject you. So the body comes to know about two different spikes and it forms a better immune system. Simple. I know you would love to read this. I loved it. I just loved it. It's about all the myths about mRNA vaccines. In fact, how they work and why they are being preferred in US. So I'm leaving the link here. You can just go around. It's an easy language stuff. It is not much scientific, but if you still have some queries, you can definitely revert back and we'll answer you. Thank you. Over to you, Prashant.
Thank you so much, Minal. That was an awesome and a very, very extensive presentation. Of course, I have a few slides to share, but sadly, I don't know if I can because we're already 7:30. So I want to hand it over to Pastor Cleo.
Dr. Prashant, you can share because we started.
Is everybody fine with that?
Yes. I think this is fantastic information. I want to really thank all the doctors for bringing in such exhaustive content. I just wish that probably 500 people just listening to this,
Yes.
Because this is
I'm quite shocked. Actually, the number of people are more than what I presented in my church, home church here in Hyderabad. Hope you see, we had a business life group, and then there were not as many people as there are now. Yeah. We almost have 28 participants. So that's a huge step up, I would say.
Please continue, Dr. Prashant. Please present what you have to present.
Dr. Prashant, can I say something?
Yeah, ma'am, please.
Dr. Prashant, since I think Minal ma'am gave a very, very, very good presentation, she explained so beautifully, and I think most of the questions of the viewers must be already solved by now.
Correct.
But I want Dr. Prashant to touch upon the certain myths prevailing, like in the Jain community against vaccines. In many communities, certain myths are there against vaccines. If you would just touch upon that. Thank you.
I think Minal has touched on most of things.
Yes.
In fact, actually, there's a lot to do with things that float around in the Christian media, particularly things like quantum dot tattoo and 5G, and there are a lot of things which came in. And I would say that you need to hold your horses first. The thing is, what's happening in India with Bharat Biotech is they're just giving you a neutered vaccine. So that's not going to cause any problem, and this has nothing to do, with spiritual implications. Yes, there is a time for more sinister stuff come into the world, but thankfully we have not seen a direct evidence of something like that. If something is cooking in the behind the scenes, we are yet to comment. I mean, there's a lot of speculation surrounding that, but I would say that just like Dr. Shalini said, that I would encourage everyone, please go get vaccinated. I got a Covaxin and I encouraged my parents to go for Covaxin. I'm not here to advocate one or the other, but scientifically speaking, Covaxin makes a lot more sense because it is the COVID virus by itself, except that it's, if you can use the word, COVID virus castrated. So it cannot replicate in your body, but at the same time, your body completely identifies what that is. So it's an inactivated virus, and it cannot replicate in your body, and the body is able to recognize things. And the good news is that it even it gives you immunity even against the mutant variants. So I would be advocating Covaxin for sure, but Covishield, if you want to travel internationally, there may be specific requirements where you want more, and also there are more numbers when it comes to Covaxin, Covishield. More people have access to Covishield because of the sheer numbers that they've been able to produce. So that's something. So I have basically a quick summation sort of a thing. Pastor, can I'm not able to share the screen. Please just bear with me a couple of this. I'll just go ahead with the slideshow. Yeah. So I'm going to very quickly. So like Minal said, D614G was the first variant that came in. This was the variant that came into China. But what's more important, you will see B.1.617. This is what is actually prevalent and mostly responsible for the second wave of this pandemic. So the second wave of the COVID pandemic, because of, we've had, mass gatherings, whether it's election campaigns or whether it's religious processions, in the mountains and stuff like that, there's so much of mixing of genetic material, and, there's creation of these new variants. So for example, the kind of infection that I would get from somewhere here, and then I go and I meet somebody who's from another state in the country in the north, and, these viruses come in contact with each other, and there is some amount of genetic spillover when they infect, two different variants of virus infecting the same person. So, another virus gets generated. So these kind of things happen, and, it's important for us to be, protected against them by the use of vaccine. So if you can get vaccinated, there's a chance that, you will not end up with a serious disease. So the other thing very important is that you are infective 2 to 3 days before you actually develop symptoms. So you are infective, you can transmit the disease to others 2 to 3 days prior to actually developing symptoms. So you need to isolate immediately. The first time that you get a cough and all, it's wise for you to stay away from other people and immediately try and get a test done. But please note that by the time your CT comes positive of any COVID changes, you would have almost crossed about 4 to 5 days with symptoms. And also, by the time the oxygen saturation is dropping, and you turn up at the hospital, almost about 60 to 70% of your lung is to it. By the time it comes down to 80, 89, there's a substantial portion of your lung that has already been affected by COVID. That's why the saturation comes down. The body is able to maintain a very high degree of saturation despite damage, but after a certain tipping balance is done, then, you're the same. So, and this is for serious disease. So if anybody, you're having outright breathlessness, you have a consistent saturation less than 90 degrees, if you have persistent pain in the chest, and you got this fever that's just not going away, new onset of confusion, and if your extremities are turning blue and all, and you've got some kind of weakness this is indicative of very serious disease. So by the time it comes to this, you should be well on your antivirals and your regimen as such. So this is something that I will leave behind. I'll leave this entire presentation for Pastor Cleo to pass around. So if your saturation is less than 94%, please see a doctor. So, resting or whatever it is. And there's another one that I want to share with you. If you, exercise, for example, somebody puts a saturation probe to your finger and you walk around and you do mild exercise and there's a drop of 4% from the original saturation that you have when you first started testing it, in a matter of say 2 to 3 minutes, if there's a drop, then it definitely indicates that you need to go visit the hospital. Because sometimes what happens is something known as happy hypoxia, where you will have saturation of about 60, 70 and you won't even know it. You'll be dying and you won't even know it. So you need to be a little careful when it comes to this. So I think this has been emphasized already in the presentation. This is the golden triad that I often talk about. Wear a face mask, maintain social distance, and wash. And it's a good thing for us to have online services and go over there. So one thing is, a few things that I want to tell you. If vaccines will actually break the transmission chain, this is like herd immunity. So even if 100%, even if the vaccines are suboptimal, and you consider the vaccine of not to be much effect, even if about say 100% of the population, even with the inferior vaccine, if they're vaccinated, you will be able to break the transmission chain. So the idea of herd immunity using vaccination is to break the transmission chain. So I would encourage our friends and the church in general, please go ahead, book your slots, get vaccinated. The other thing is, I have spoken to a critical care pulmonologist who mans the ICU at one of the corporates over here in Hyderabad, and he tells that, if you are vaccinated, it's highly unlikely for you to develop a very serious disease. Yes, people who get vaccinated, do they develop a disease? Yes. And there are a few cases now, sadly, that have come that, even after vaccination, they have developed serious disease. But for the most part, if you are vaccinated, it's very unlikely for you to develop very serious disease. So you will have the disease, you can get treated with regular antivirals and home, or maybe even a little bit oxygen supply, supplementation, you'll be able to make it out of the hospital. But the chances of you going to the ICU, very slim, if you are vaccinated. So this is what I would say. And also, when you start Fabiflu or Remdesivir, any of these drugs, it needs to be started in the initial phase. When things are going south, even if you start these, things are going south in the sense that it's a figure of speech, that things are going downhill, condition is degrading, there's not much point at that point to start these things. So whenever you suspect yourself to have symptoms, quickly get yourself tested. Don't be overconfident. So with that, I'll hand it over for the audience, and Pastor Cleophas, I'd like to hand it over to you. I think you can take it up from here and we'll answer questions as and we can.
Yeah. So I think most of the questions were answered so beautifully in the presentations itself. And so we really want to thank the doctors for giving us such beautiful illustrations and even clear content. So I would like to open it up for Q&A right now. And if those of you who'd like to ask questions, please post your questions in the chat window, and then I can probably read it out. I think there's one question here from Hari Prasad. He says, when a patient is asymptomatic but antibodies are spiked, then can he be vaccinated? I think that's what he means. So if one of you can take that question.
Minal, that's for you.
Yeah, Hari. So thank you for asking this question. See, when the antibodies are spiked, we are actually using it as a marker to understand that the person has been infected, and the person has remained asymptomatic, but the antibodies are still high. I suggest personally, according to the guidelines says the time you have been infected, after 3 months of the infection, you can take the vaccination. So here the person is asymptomatic, but his antibodies are high. We don't really know in the recent past, when did he get the infection? So the day of doing the test, when his antibodies are high, you count that. And from there you count 3 months. And then after 3 months, you take the vaccination. I hope it helps.
Okay. The next question is, somebody says, I think, this is from Shaji Matthew. Hello, I got 2 shots of Pfizer vaccine because I was in the Middle East. I returned for vacations and I'm awaiting turn from my wife for the vaccine in India. When she takes, can it create new variants, and will there be any harm caused to our daughters aged 8 and 5 at home? Thank you for answering.
Vaccines will not create variants. Vaccine will rather prevent you from all the current variants that are known. So she can definitely go ahead and take the vaccination. If your wife has not yet got a single shot, then whichever vaccine she takes now is the same vaccine she should be taking in the second dose. So if she takes Covishield now, she should take Covishield. If she takes Covax now, she should take Covax. There were cases where the mixing of the vaccines did happen. Somebody took Covax early, and then the second dose was given by mistake as Covishield. The researchers have yet not studied this kind of a thing as of now, but India has been doing all kind of things. So we are not sure what would happen with that. But as according to the guidelines, whichever vaccine she takes now, she should also repeat the second dose of the same vaccine.
Yeah, that could be a consideration for people who are traveling. In fact, actually, I had another query that, I'm leaving early next month and I've got my vaccination date today. So, what do I do with that sort of a thing? So, yeah, you should have both the doses ideally. I think that's what it is, right? Or, both the dose from the same manufacturer, whether it's Covishield or Covaxin, same manufacturer spaced apart by 4 to 6 weeks, whichever the regimen may say. I think that's what's supposed to be done. I think Minal will concur on that.
Yeah, I think it's totally right. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. The next question is, thank you, doctor, for answering that. Do you have anything more to add to that?
Ma'am, I would like to ask you one question from my side where people keep asking me. So there are young couples who just got married and they come for the vaccination. So they ask me if they can plan for conceiving or no. So I usually don't have an answer, but I tell them to avoid conceiving for a year, just to be on a safer side. But I don't have any evidence on that. So could you help me with that?
Okay. So while they were doing the trials, they did not include the people who were pregnant. They did not include lactating mothers, and they did not include those who were planning to conceive. That is called trying to conceive, TTC. But the guideline says that the benefit of vaccination is far more than the risk of it. And it is always good to get vaccinated. The good thing, about us not having any controversy is that we are not using mRNA vaccine.
Yeah.
Okay.
You see, when you have mRNA vaccine, you might have 1,000 questions, and this all sounds scientifically relevant, especially for pregnant mothers and lactating mothers and the TTC, that is trying to conceive mothers. But we don't have those vaccines, so it's a good thing. Go ahead and get vaccinated either with Covax or Covishield or Sputnik. No problems. I mean, technically speaking, there is no flaw. The IAP, AAP, and all the other guidelines have come up. They are saying the benefit is far more than the risk. Risk is totally theoretical. Benefit is practical, because we saw a lot of mothers dying while time of delivery who were infected with COVID, and we could not save them. And they have also found that mothers who have been vaccinated are secreting antibodies in the milk to the babies. So the lactating mother is benefiting the small baby by getting the antibodies to the baby. So it is advisable to go ahead and get vaccinated, either if you are trying to conceive or you are lactating or you're pregnant right now.
If they would ask me if they, how long should they stop trying to conceive, or is there any window period or anything I can tell them? Or?
Not yet. See, the only drawback is that the papers have not yet come out, because initial studies did not include. But technically speaking, there should be no issues. In fact, they should be trying to conceive as well, because see, these are killed vaccines, or they are adenovirus-based vector vaccines. So they are totally safe. They are not going to be harming the baby, even if the lady is pregnant or even if she's trying to conceive. So it's not going to be affecting the sperms and the ovum.
The
So
genetic material. Yes.
That's right.
Okay, we have one more question here. How effective is it when you've just had one shot of the Covishield vaccine?
Okay, I have some practical examples of it. When you have one shot of any vaccine, let me say any vaccine, the body immune system actually has yet not kicked in for the first 10 to 14 days. And if you get exposed, you will get the infection or no infection as per your body's pattern. I mean, it is as good as not taking the vaccine. That's my personal experience. My daddy took the vaccine on 12th, but he was already exposed. So by 16th he was having the symptoms of COVID. So having said that, it doesn't mean that you've taken the vaccine today, it's going to be a magic drug. No, it will take 10 to 15 days for your body to start forming some kind of antibodies. But if you've taken single dose and it has passed that phase of 10 to 15 days, it's very effective to not give you a serious illness. That is my second example of my own brother-in-law. He got the vaccination and then his second vaccination was yet due and he got the infection. But when he got the infection, it was so mild that he did not have to be hospitalized. His CT scan score was just 1. He was breathing all fine. SpO2 was good. And he didn't require anything except for the vitamins and the minerals and just staying at home, eating well, hydrating well. You see? So even if you get the infection, it is not of a serious grade if you have got at least a single dose.
Okay. Thank you, doctor. The next question is, if a person is hospitalized for a serious condition of COVID and cured for 20 days, even in case of his oxygen level is up and down, how long does he have to be isolated in the house, or can he be free?
I think Dr. Prashant would like to answer that.
Yeah, the thing is, see, it's a common thing. 14 days after the, infection, once you test negative. Say, for example, you are diagnosed and you started on your medication and 14 days are elapsed. And after that you test, or maybe 21 days are elapsed and you test negative, and then you're free to go. Now, when it comes to post-COVID syndrome, so for example, breathlessness sometimes can last for months. And, sometimes people have brain fog. That's another thing. People are finding it difficult to think, the way they would think prior to COVID. So there are a lot of these kind of things that come up here and there, but these resolve with time. But what is needed is good nutrition. You can sparingly use of bronchodilators if there is a necessity for that. And sometimes people can put you on steroids also. So this most likely the conjunction of breathlessness and those kind of symptoms after your COVID attack, you need to be monitored by a pulmonologist. So a lung specialist needs to take a look at you and you need to follow up with them for an ideal and optimal result. But yes, once you test negative, then yes, you are not, an infective person once symptoms are resolved. But you can get the infection again. That's another problem. So, it's important that, after 2 months of getting the disease, once you're a little better, or 2 to 3 months, depending on the resolution of your symptoms, please go and get vaccinated. So it's important that even after you get the disease, after about 2 months, get vaccinated. If you're just having a regular disease and all your symptoms are fine. If you're having a lot of breathlessness and all, wait it out. Maybe about a month more interval is recommended. I think I'll have Minal also share this along with me, and then we'll see. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Prashant. Okay, we have another question here. The second dose of the COVAX was taken within 2 weeks delay, because of the shortage, crossing the 28 days. Will the vaccine be effective?
Very, very effective. In fact, more effective than it should be.
6 weeks is better than 4 weeks.
Yeah. So please do not get discouraged. The beauty of the vaccines is the later the better. But we don't usually say like that so that people don't come to know about it. There are certain secrets doctors have. Yes. But don't worry, 6 weeks is a good time. It's a good time for the body to make its own immune cells, rest a bit, and then the second attack, whenever it happens, it gets a good time to boost up. So the second vaccine dose that is given is actually a second round of training. You see, so you have trained your army first time, you have exposed them to a new vaccine for the first time, and they made their antibodies, and now they have rested. But then when you give a second vaccine, it's like a trial again, or what is it called? What is it called, Prashant?
Yeah,
a trial again.
Like a mock drill, ma'am.
Good. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
So it is a mock drill. So it's a second mock drill. By the time the mock drill comes in, they are all kicked in again. So don't worry. 6 weeks is very good. Even 8 weeks is very good.
Okay. I have some questions on my WhatsApp as well. So I'm just going to read it out. It says, once the vaccination is taken, wouldn't there be COVID-like symptoms in different measures, actually mimicking a COVID infection for some? Asking because we had info from people who's otherwise perfectly healthy, dear ones, after taking the shot, had passed away or had been in the ICU. These were info from, okay, yeah, that's the,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. As I exactly said, I gave you my daddy's case just now. It was, we are in a situation where we are getting the vaccinations at one time, and simultaneously we are getting exposed to, the exposure. So we are not able to differentiate.
Mhm.
Of course, when we get the vaccine, you may get fever, you may get body pains. In fact, one nurse told me that even my fingertip is paining me. So, you have different kind of symptoms of pain, body pains, and headache and fever. That one is normal. It's there for a day, it's normal. Little weakness lingers on for another day, it's normal. But if the person has actually landed up in the hospital with SpO2 declining, trust me, it is not the vaccine. It's not the vaccine. It so happened that he was already exposed, not knowing that he got the vaccine, and the exposure flared up, not because of vaccine, but because the time has completed, as Dr. Prashant was explaining, So the disease has come into full-blown picture, but it's not the vaccine. Right.
Okay. Somebody's asking here, post-COVID, are patients prone to neurological problems?
Dr. Nancy and Dr. Prashant.
Nancy, come on.
I've seen one patient, ma'am, who got Guillain-Barré syndrome post-COVID. So it's a neurological autoimmune problem. So it varies from patient to patient, I guess, body to body. So it's not with all the cases. That's what I've personally seen.
I get to see any trouble with Covaxin. Most of the time, I've seen trouble with Covishield, from what I can see in India.
No, they don't mean the vaccine. They mean the post-COVID.
Post-COVID, yeah.
Yes. Post-COVID, yes. But the thing is, for me, most of the time, I've seen people complaining about breathlessness, difficulty for them to even voice. Their voice goes so weak, they can't even vocalize. They find it so difficult to even have a conversation. So I've seen things like that. I've seen brain fog. And this is rare because Nancy is in a COVID treating hospital. She will know. So we generally keep our COVID patients away. But then, that's how it is.
Okay,
just to add on that, somehow the Delta variant is really tricky. I'm seeing cases like even after 4 to 6 weeks, they are weak, they are tired, they are sometimes not able to walk. Some of them require oxygen for longer durations, even at rest.
Yes.
Post-COVID is a thing in itself. And I've seen that some of them really get hungry a lot. So they are always wanting to eat because it does affect the metabolism. And then they start picking up and then they start recovering. But post-COVID means you will recover out of it.
Yes.
But it's a long procedure, at least with the Delta variant. Yes.
And then also there's, reports of diarrhea. People have uncontrollable diarrhea after having COVID, and that's also troublesome to treat. But we managed to give them antimotility agents like, Restil, what do I say?
Loperamide.
Loperamide based, Eldicet, and those kind of things. So we try to manage them. The other is, when it comes to post-COVID, definitely we've seen brain fog is on and off. So people can't make clinical decisions in a hurry. So, for a while, they're not able to articulate what they, have experienced. That kind of a thing also happens.
I think what they're also trying to ask is, does post-COVID, once you've recovered, does it lead to problems like anxiety, depression? How do people cope up with mental health issues once they recover from COVID? Because it plays on their mind, right? I've been a COVID patient and stuff like that. So
Okay, I think that's where we need to, as believers, we need to kick in. See, India does not really have separate counseling, forums, but we do have Christian brothers and sisters who can really do a lot of counseling. It does create a lot of PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, it's a real trauma to get the severe form of COVID, be on ventilator, or really gasp and stay hungry for oxygen and then recover out of it. And that is the time I think we need to really encourage them with the word of God, with prayer.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking to you as a person who has firsthand seen her father into it, and also as a believer. Really, we have to pitch in there as a believer and counsel and help. In Ghana, we are doing something called as a holistic combination. We are also calling the physiotherapists to treat our COVID patients. Once they are better, we start giving them the lung physiotherapy, and we also start calling in the counselors. They wear the PPEs and they go inside to see the patients, and they start counseling the patients. But we don't have that kind of a picture in India. But I really think that's where we pitch in.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely right, ma'am.
Yeah. Just one more question, I think, then we probably close. When a person who has been infected in the past but recovered, when should they take the vaccination?
Can I answer
Beautiful
this question?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Actually, a person who's been infected can get vaccinated after total recovery. Earlier, it was like 15 days after total recovery, after he's tested RT-PCR negative, so that when he goes for vaccination, he does not spread infection at the site of vaccination. But now, latest, Dr. Guleria has recommended that according to the latest guidelines, it's better that you give a space of about 3 months so that your natural immunity works way ahead. And then when you get vaccinated, overall, it develops a very strong immune response in you.
Okay.
Here, Pastor, if you just give me 2 minutes, I want to touch something.
Sure.
It is about black fungus, mucormycosis. We hear this, since last 2 months, we've heard it like never before. It's created so much furor amongst the general population. But I want to tell you one thing, that India is the diabetes capital of the world currently. And most of our population in the middle age groups, we don't even know are diabetics. So when we land up in hospitals with COVID, and particularly in this wave, steroids have been used to the bountifuls. They had to be used because it was so life-threatening and critical conditions. And so when you use steroids in hospitals, in some doses, your blood sugars, if they are already high, you are diabetics. So the steroids, they decrease the inflammation in the lungs, but at the same time, they shoot up your blood sugars. And that is one of the factors to developing mucormycosis. In itself is not a separate entity. Mucormycosis is a kind of fungus that develops in the a sugary environment does favor its growth. So the best we all can do is keeping our blood sugars in check. And now, one thing I want to say here on a personal note, I worked in Safdarjung Hospital as senior resident in ENT department, and there was a junior, Dr. Sachin Goyal. We recently lost him to COVID. Now, people will think, why? ENT surgeon, he was younger to me. So 2 years younger to me, so maybe about 35 years. 2 small kids he has. We lost him. A doctor lost to COVID. And later on, we found he was not vaccinated. He was little casual about it. Like the general notion going on in public, कि चलो पहले let's see others, how they fare well with the vaccination, then we'll get vaccinated. So, that casual attitude took his life. It is so sad to say this, but please, this is my thing. This is my request. Please get vaccinated. Please. This is the best gift you can give to your family, to yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you so much, Shalini. In fact, actually, many times in India, what happens is that, we approach sometimes doctors on account of financial constraints. We approach people who are not qualified. And, I don't want to name any particular system of medicine, but then people, keep giving steroids and they keep giving ivermectin. And the combination of an antifungal, you kill your existing population of normal Candida species which line your mouth. And you also give, steroids which further suppress your immune response and blood. In a combination of these, with, triggering you to have higher than usual blood sugars, and people have started developing mucormycosis. And, now there's a fancy term for it called black fungus. There's nothing new about black fungus. It's been there for eons past. We've been seeing black fungus for a long time. In fact, if Shalini is in the ENT department, that's something that she sees on a daily basis.
Yes.
Mucormycosis is normal. It's been there forever. coronavirus also is not a novel term. It's because it's shot to viral fame just because of COVID. This coronavirus is basically what 10% to 20% of our common cold that we get as regular people during seasonal changes or whatever is attributed towards coronavirus. But now it's become fancy, and people talk about COVID and corona and black fungus, and these things have become important because of the fame and popularity of these search words. So yeah.
Dr. Prashant, I have one last question. Somebody wants to know what is the content in the vaccine. So what what is the actual content in the Covaxin and the Covishield? What do they put inside? So that's probably the layman term.
I think there are two other people who did extensive reading on this.
Yeah.
I think I'll leave it to them.
Yeah, Dr. Shalini explained it very
Yes,
nicely.
Shalini is the one
She can
who
show up.
Okay. If
Right.
you have time, I can explain it. Yes.
Yeah, you can show the slide as well. I like that one.
Yeah.
Slide sharing, I'll have to check.
It's okay, doctor. Maybe you can just verbally visit.
Yeah, I'll just explain it. See, viewers, I need to emphasize here that vaccine is nothing special thing that you're putting in your bodies. It is not antibodies. Basically, our immunity works on the concept of antigen-antibody reaction. Antibodies are body forms in response to any kind of infection. Okay, so we've been vaccinated through childhood. So we are, kind of protected against those infections that we've been vaccinated against. Now, COVID is relatively newer. So a lot of research had been, gone into the past 1 year, and they have come up with certain solutions that have actually proved quite effective against the containment of the virus. There are two types, basically, mRNA-based and viral vector-borne. mRNA is basically genetically engineered set of instructions that you provide in the form of vaccine to your body. And basically it recognizes the S protein, and your body develops antibodies against it. Because you've seen that COVID virus has that hook-like spikes, against that particular thing. It presents antibodies, and those antibodies will recognize the antigen when it actually enters your body at a later stage. If you develop infection, that is mRNA technology. They basically both work on the same account. And about viral vector-borne, they use basically the virus only in a weakened form, deactivated form basically, but with all of the structure intact, and they put it into a vector. A vector means a carrier to transfer to your bodies. Like in the case of
And if it helps, I've screen shared your presentation. If it helps you anyway, I've had it on the screen.
I can't hear you clearly, Dr. Nancy.
She's saying that she's
her screen with your slides.
Okay, so as in the case of Covishield, the cold virus, that is, adenovirus of chimpanzees, we use its weakened strain, and then it is put inside. And Covaxin uses the inactivated virus itself. So these, basically, India has two vaccines, Covishield, Covaxin. As of now, Covishield works on the weakened, by the weakened strain of cold virus, and Covaxin works by the intact virus with all its 29 protein, intact, the surface, the virus structure intact. So Covaxin gives you more closer immunity as you would get as natural immunity. And the other technology we were talking about is mRNA based, which I just discussed earlier. So two vaccines, Pfizer and Moderna, are based on that. Pfizer and Moderna have been developed on that account. Covishield from AstraZeneca and Oxford University. And this is viral vector-borne. And Sputnik, which is to be available shortly in the market, is double viral vector-borne.
Oh, okay.
So this is quite much technicalities for common people to understand, but in nutshell, you can understand that it is weakened, attenuated, or deactivated virus only, or its parts that's been, exposed to your body, so that your body recognizes the part of it or in its weakened form, and then forms antibodies against it, so that when, actual infection is encountered, your body is already, armed with antibodies to face it. Yeah. And one more question here I'll answer is, these vaccines they just go intracytoplasmically, but they don't get into the nucleus where the genetic material is kept of our, so it does not, it does not harm your genetic constitution or genetic material. This is very important to understand.
Yes,
So
I think that
don't
is the
get
fear that
vaccinated.
most people have, is that they feel that whether these vaccines will, enter into the nucleus and try to, affect the genetic.
No. They just go intracytoplasmically. They work till there. Intranuclear, they don't enter. They don't get into the nucleus.
Okay.
So not
Doctor, last question I have from somebody. I won't ask any more. I know I've troubled you all quite a bit this evening. Somebody's asking if people have respiratory issues and they are on medication for it, would you suggest them to take the vaccine?
Those who have asthma and the like?
Respiratory issues, yeah.
No, absolutely. They should go for the vaccine. That's nothing to do with the respiratory or anything else. Nothing to do.
Okay.
Anybody who's unvaccinated, please get vaccinated, because if you do get COVID, you won't land in the ICU. That's what you take home. If you get vaccinated both doses, you will develop the disease. If you get, infected later, maybe, but it'll be a very mild one or something that can be managed. These are the words for almost about a year and a half or 2 years of experience of a pulmonologist who's treated COVID for 1.5 years. He's Dr. Narasimha Reddy from Zoya Hospital, Hyderabad. So I had a detailed chat with him. He says that anyone who got vaccinated, they don't have a serious disease. Anybody who comes in with symptoms in the first 3-4 days of symptoms, if they come, we're able to salvage them. Those who come in late, those who are unaware, those who are not educated about the disease, these are the people who fall prey to a serious disease or even death.
Prashant, I think those who have respiratory symptoms must definitely get the vaccine.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they are already compromised. Their lungs are already compromised.
Exactly.
So they must take it. I mean, they are the people whom we should catch up.
Target population.
Okay.
Absolutely. Milal is an expert on all this because she looks at community health and, she's like the right person for the job. And, we've had, an excellent turnout from both, all of our doctor panelists. I'm so thankful.
Can I ask, Doctor, can I ask one question from Minal ma'am?
Yeah, please, ma'am. Please.
Minal ma'am, there is a little, a lot of apprehension, fear about the third wave that's, expected.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Shalini brings up all the right points.
Anytime. So the third wave that's to come up, and it will significantly affect kids and all that. And there is no provision yet for kids vaccination, until now. So if you could just, relieve us of all those.
Okay, I'm not a pediatrician, but yes, there's been a lot of myths around. The biggest problem with the I have a very good 3 points presenter from a pediatrician actually, and she said one thing. She said the third wave is not gonna come on kids. Why it is being said as kids is, I'll explain you just in a minute. See, they're thinking that the elderly have either been succumbed to the disease, they have died, or they will get the disease. I'm talking in community point of view. Or they have either got the disease and succumbed, or they have recovered from the disease, or they will get the vaccine. The next adults have also started succumbing to the disease. So who's left now is the children. But the beauty about the children is their immune system is much milder. See, the whole problem with the COVID game is that once the virus is attacked and disturbed the immune system starts destroying and inflammating the lungs and the area around, right? So that inflammatory response is less with children. Only just a few percent, maybe probably a 1% of the children population would actually land up with this kind of a problem, especially with those who are like nephrotic syndrome, those who are already having some kind of a debilitating disease in the childhood. So that one is another thing. And the third thing that we have to realize is that these children present with a varied presentation. So we were just discussing this in another church group also. What can you do? Be watchful on the children. It might not just be the same symptoms as adults. It might be totally different picture. It might be mild fever, diarrhea, vomiting, and presenting in a different picture. The worst that can happen is like 1% of this 1% is that they can land up in the multi-system organ failure. So you have to be watchful. You have now there was something called as a guideline saying give influenza vaccine, and they said that will protect. That's a myth. Influenza vaccine prevents against flu, that is influenza virus, not against coronavirus. But it is said that you should give it just as a precaution, not to coronavirus, but to the flu virus per se. But any child which is presenting with fever, with diarrhea, with vomitings, cough is very, just a few cases you find cough. Cough is a rare symptom. But if you find these things, parents should be alert and take the children in the right time to the doctor and get the test done. So that is the guidelines for now. Vaccines, I am sure we are going to open up vaccination to 12 years old or so very soon. It's not too far. The people I've been talking to, they are really assuring that we might be opening up the vaccinations to 12 years and under. And we might be able to start the vaccination for them. Meantime, what would you want to do to protect? Give a lot of vitamin C rich diet, zinc rich diet. We give a lot of zinc. Zinc is good in mushrooms. I keep on telling that. So a lot of zinc rich diet. If it is not available, what food to give, you can just buy zinc tablets and continue with that. A lot of vitamin C rich diet. Amla is very good. And another thing that you can do is vitamin D supplementation on a regular basis. So within that pediatric dosage. So these are the things you basically have to do. Give a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables, a lot of, these components will take care of the antioxidants and the vitamins and the minerals. So you have to do that. But keep a close eye. The whole game is about the close eye. You see your child a little ill, just rush him in. Most of them will have asymptomatic disease. Most of them will not have any serious problem. So the third wave touching the children, till last month I was thinking yes, but the more I'm coming across the data and across the picture, it seems no. It would not really be as bad on children as they're predicting it. They're just predicting because elderly have been lost or vaccinated, middle-aged has been lost or vaccinated. Now who is left is the little children. So it might not be so. Yeah.
Doctor, why is there a gap between the first wave, the second wave, and the third wave? So
you mean the time gap?
Yeah, the time gap. Like, is there a?
You do Kumbh Mela every 5 days. You will get more of it. See, you do Kumbh Mela every 5 days. You will get it.
Yeah.
Okay. See, the more we get exposed, the more we are going to continue the pandemic. Oh. The lesser exposure, the better the protection.
Okay.
So that's the only thing. That's the only thing. Right.
Every time when you get infected, there is a slow transmission of disease that keeps on happening.
Yeah.
See, it takes a time. Normally, when lockdowns are enforced, the transmission suddenly drops.
Yes.
Then it will remain at a very low level. Then slowly they relax, and again the transmission starts. And when sufficient number of cases build up, then there's a huge spike in the curve moment you have. So that's what came with second wave. And I think a lot to do with second wave is the mass gatherings that sadly were allowed, which should not have been done. But the third wave for sure is going to be, I think, if vaccinations can happen, I think we could prevent a third wave. That's the whole point in giving vaccinations. I think Minal will concur on that.
Yeah. Thank you
fully
so
agree
much.
with
that. We'd like to thank all the doctors for really bringing such exhaustive content, really informative. It's an eye-opener, I guess, for all of us today to know about vaccination. And I'm sure everyone will go and get their dosage of the vaccine and prevent others from getting infected. So really want to thank each and every one of you for joining in as well this evening. We have recorded this presentation, and we would also be getting the slides, hopefully from each of them who have presented it, so we can pass it on. And hopefully let's pray that all of us are safe. And that is our prayer, that God will protect us, keep us, and we will overcome all of these hurdles, and we are going to really see a healthier and a better life in the coming days. So thank you once again for joining in, and thank you, doctors, for your